Hey and welcome. In today's video we are going to start with a new series. Today we are making those pants by using the 80s styles jeans pattern Matilda by This Is Kachi. It's sort of a sew along vlog video and we will rate the pattern in 5 categories. Now let's jump right into the video. What I needed to do first is obviously to cut out all the pattern pieces that I got from the downloaded pattern. By the way, the pattern is linked down in the description box. As you might have already seen, one category that we are going to rate the pattern in is the explanation. And I think the explanation is quite accurate on the pattern itself. By the way, you can also download some written instructions and she has a tutorial online on her YouTube channel. I really like that she has her logo and the name of the pattern on every single pattern piece. The pattern also includes every important information like pocket opening or other notches or how many times you need to cut out which piece from which fabric. Because as you can see on that piece right here, you also need to cut out some pieces from your interfacing. In general, the pattern contains 9 pieces. I just followed her tutorial, so the first step that I did is to interface all the pieces that she tells us to interface. I also like that she points out that you need to be extra careful when interfacing the fly because it is important that you catch the right side. Next up, I'm doing the pockets for the back. Therefore, I just searched the edge right here on top so that it doesn't fray. And then you just flip over all the raw corners and iron them in place. And then I had a small burger because eating is, especially when you sew, very important for your nerves. Now I did take my front piece and we are doing the front pocket. Therefore she has this pattern piece where you can grab in afterwards and this part. She wants us to sew this on that part. In her case that's smart because she uses just normal cotton fabric for this piece and this is her normal fabric, but since I'm using my normal fabric for both, I just leave this piece away because then it's not that thick. So that's why I skipped this step and just continued with sewing this part to the front leg, right sides facing. By the way, I just wanted to mention that I wasn't quite sure where this piece right here comes from, because I don't know if it's on the pattern itself, but in her tutorial she doesn't state that you need to iron the piece in half. And what you need to do after almost every seam that you create is to top stitch this seam with 2 parallel seams because that just makes this jeans style look. And then you just close the pockets on both sides. I wasn't quite sure if I need to include this part right here. I just did it because then it was a bit more stable. The next step is to stitch those back pockets on the back pieces, and here she recommends, or in general she recommends, to use some contrasting thread. In my case I was a bit too lazy to always change it because I just have one machine. But I think that's a quite nice idea. Also, I sewed on this joke, I think it's called, and did the top stitching thing with every single seam. And then with right sides facing each other, you close the center back seam and obviously do the top stitching again. Now here comes the part that I was kind of most afraid of, because now we insert the zipper. Therefore I took this piece that I also serged. She mentioned that in her video but didn't do it herself, but that's not a problem. And then we are supposed to sew it right sides facing, but only up until this notch right here. And as you might have already guessed, I also top stitched this part, and now the next step is to attach the zipper. Therefore she recommends a metal zipper, because this is just way more stable than, for example, plastic zipper. Now with right sides facing each other, we are going to sew the zipper in place, but just up until this notch, and then we take this piece, by the way that's once again the piece that you already have, just ironed in half. And then you are going to lay that as well, right sides facing, and sew along the line again up until the notch. And obviously top stitch afterwards. I like that she explains this method as well as the method to just sew it both at once, so it's just easier if you struggle with that step. Now here comes the part where it starts to get a bit difficult. So you just pin your pants in a way that they just cover up the zipper. And here I couldn't really follow her explanation, because I was supposed to sew along this line to create that typical jeans seam. But if I just sew it in place like this, I would also catch those two pieces back here, and then I cannot open the zipper anymore. In the comments of the video and also in the reviews of her pattern, some people also stated that this part wasn't really clearly explained. One mistake that I made is to sew the whole line and the round shape, but she clearly states that you only need to sew the round shape in her video, so that's not her fault, and that just makes more sense. Because in the way that I did it, I couldn't open the part that I'm going to open in a second, which is this part right here. By the way, for the front seam that I struggled with, she also gives the tip to use the fly pattern piece to kind of mark where the seam goes. And then I just flipped it to the side and sewed along this marked line. So I just sew the zipper, this piece under here, and one layer of fabric, making sure not to catch anything from the left side right now. And I think that was the right way, because if you pull on the right side, there's no movement in the fabric over the zipper itself and you can open it. And then there was the next kind of problem, which was to close the center front seam. She just showed and didn't really explain this step, so I wasn't quite sure, but then I found out that she flipped away this thing up here. But then my problem was that my machine couldn't really reach up the whole seam, so I had a little hole or gap, which you can see right here, but that was not a problem since you also need to top stitch that part and then it's closed. Make sure to iron the seam allowance to the right and also top stitch on the right side, because then it just looks more professional since it's the same direction as it is for the zipper part above. Then you just lay the back and the front part right sides facing, sew the sides and the inner leg seam. Then I tried it on and sadly it didn't really fit very comfortable. That's also something that people were stating in the reviews, that you should definitely size up, even multiple sizes. So I decided to, although I already added a lot of seam allowance, just add some fabric in the sides to make it fit me. Then I also hemmed it, added the waistband, a button and ironed it, and while I'm cleaning my room now, let's do the review. For difficulty, I'll give 2 out of 5 stars because the only thing that was a bit difficult or could challenge beginners was the zipper. For time, I'll give 3 stars because it is a bit time consuming, but you can definitely manage to do it in like 2 afternoons. For price, I give 5 out of 5 stars, not because it's very expensive, it is around 8 euros, but it's worth it and the price is very fair. As you saw in this video, the zipper explanation was a bit difficult, so that's only 4 out of 5 stars. And for the fit and design, I'll give 3 because the design and the style is amazing, but the way it fit me and the size was a bit problematic. That's my personal review of the pattern. I really appreciate the work and the effort that she put in. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel to not miss out any further videos. And now here comes the final reveal. Bye!